Hey, everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is a podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. Today, I got the honor of sitting down with eVolute Performance Coach Timmy Gallagher, and Timmy just dropped so much knowledge. But specifically, he talked a lot about coaching and why it is so important to see those great examples when it comes to coaching. He talked about what happens when we see those awful examples of coaching or don't have those role models in our lives. Transformational coaching, what is that all about? Advice for leaders going forward in 2023. You don't want to miss a second of this. Listen in. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Leading from the Middle podcast. And I have got a phenomenal guest that I can't wait for you to hear all of the knowledge he's going to drop. What a tremendous background he has. I'm going to just get right to him. eVolute Performance Coach Timmy Gallagher. Timmy, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I am well, thank you, Kenny. And I don't know how tremendous I am, but we were talking before we got going. Your podcast, the guest you're bringing, and here you are. That is tremendous. So
thank you.
Steel sharpens steel, right? So here we are.
No doubt. There's so many places I want to go with you today. You have such a tremendous background. I kind of want to start there because I'm not familiar with the first two that you named. You say that you are part Jocko Willink, Wim Hof, but obviously I'm familiar with the Dalai Lama and Robert F. Kennedy. And so what made you pick those four people? And tell me a little bit about the first two.
Yeah, I didn't pick them. A marketing guy who I'm real good friends with, he hit me with that. He's like, you should put that on your LinkedIn. But Jocko is pretty well known out there in the leadership circles, a Navy SEAL.
Oh,
now is on, Extreme Ownership. Yeah.
Okay.
And as a leader, in fact, his book was recommended to me because a good buddy of mine who's known me since high school said, somebody stole your book. They're like, this is you. And
yes.
And Jocko is great. I like his book. So that idea of extreme ownership and being a retired cop, I have that kind of military bent. Wim Hof wise, if you don't know Wim, he's known as the Iceman. So he calls it breathing, but intermittent hypoxia, cold water baths, all that kind of, you're picking up on it now.
Gotcha, yes.
And the point with those two and the Dalai Lama and JFK, who's a big hero of mine, they're all about what's your next level. And in that realm, how do you serve?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I want to continue on that road and hear a little bit more about your background because I just found it fascinating. Talk a little bit about your background and what's kind of led you now to this point in your career to be this performance coach that is just dedicated to helping leaders just become the best that they could be. Talk a little bit about what led to that.
The coaching came out of literally a knock at the door. In the day job, someone knocked on my door and said, I've been talking to life coaches and leadership coaches. This guy wanted to get to his next level. And he's like, none of them worked for me. And I see what you do. I hear how you talk. I see how you live. Would you coach me?
Wow.
Yeah. And as a man of God, you know the deal. Like when the door knocks, when there's a knock, you got it. Yeah.
You got to answer.
Yeah. So we did start coaching together, but I was not a certified coach. I wasn't trained, and it just kept evolving, leaning my hand towards eVolute. Right. And I spoke to a C-suite coach who's very well known that I'm friends with. And he said, yeah, I can see it. And he said, here's what you do. And I ended up being admitted to Brown University, to their coaching program.
Wow.
And after completing the program at Brown University, attained my ACC with the International Coaching Federation. And then that led me into positive intelligence, Shirzad Shamin, and mental fitness, which jive totally well with my endurance athleticism.
Yeah. Wow. That is so awesome. I want to go a little bit further now with you, because after watching you a few times and reading about yourself, I really have a good idea why your coaching is very unique from other coaching styles that I've ever been involved with. But I'd love to hear that from you. What makes your coaching style so unique?
Uh, my deeper real answer is I'm living out my vocation from God.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, say no more. And
and
I'm kidding. I want you to say more, but
and
that's awesome.
and my the spiritual direction I've had over the years tells me, when you keep getting those pings, those heed the call moments,
Yeah.
it's either you're an idiot and you need to wake up, or the spirit's leading you somewhere. And it just kept evolving. Looking back, it's interesting when I run into people I haven't seen in years and I tell them I'm coaching, they go, oh yeah, I get that, you should have done that years ago. I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me years ago? But it's like Jonah, like, you got to go to this town. Like, no, I don't want to do it. And like, I'm going to get on a ship and go the other way. It's like, nope, you're going to go whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
So it is just, yet it's been a calling. When it's going well, I'm not even aware of what I'm doing.
Wow.
You,
Wow.
you follow me on
I
that?
do.
Yeah.
I live that every day. And let's stay on this for a little bit. We'll come back to the coaching because I love that you brought that up. Before we started the recording, you talked about you've just got now this real passion towards men and spirituality
Yeah.
and fatherhood. And I, I would imagine that that's driving you every day. Talk a little bit more about that and what triggered all that for you. Of course, a knock on the door and those soft knocks that you've had for a while now, but talk a little bit about why that has become your passion and how that intertwines with what you want to do every day.
Ooh, okay. Put a timer on this, right? You might have to give me
Oh,
the
no time
hook.
roll at
Uh,
all. No,
so,
no time roll at all.
if people, particularly men, do not learn to transform their pain, they will most likely transmit their pain. As a retired law enforcement officer, a lot of what we dealt with as police, and we can obviously roll this right into what's in our headlines today.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you look at this idea of crime, cult dysfunction, a lot of what's really going down is men acting out more than women. Not that women don't commit crime, but
Yeah.
and when you really look at those men and what they're doing and what's behind that, what I would submit to you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, is they did not have a positive spiritual male role model.
Mm-hmm.
And left to their own ways, they're just trying to work it out, but all the wrong way. Example, culturally, we've seen boys that were initiated into manhood. We could talk about all those stories. And there's certain patterns in sacred cultural initiations. When you look at, let's say, a gang like the Bloods or Crips, and I saw this as a cop, they're doing the same patterns. There's a PPO, a pledge, prayer, oath. There's a bloodletting of some form. There's a rite, there's a passage. It's all the same patterns. I mean, we even see it on the weekend, these icons of, we're going into the gauntlet and we have like the eagles, and like it's all the same patterns of, we're trying to find our deeper call. And see, women learn it naturally. One day they wake up and mom says, welcome to womanhood. It's bloody, it's painful, it's emotional, and you go through it about every 28 days. We don't naturally have that, so we have to be taught that. But for having those positive spiritual male role models, you see what we're having. And then, and I'll open it up as a former law enforcement officer. And then you see things like George Floyd and what is even in our headlines now with
Mm-hmm.
Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
And I doubt any of those officers woke up saying, we're going to kill someone today. I really do doubt that. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, this is what happened. So how did this happen? What I would submit to folks is, and you've heard it, like, it's not about training. It's just, did these men really know who they are and what they were doing? Meaning, you're called to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. Believe me, I was a cop. Go home safe and sound. I get it, but call to serve. And you have to know who you are. And that's where the coaching and mental fitness comes in. That takes you to your deeper calling of who you are. See, when if my personality shows up, the true me is not showing up. But much of society gives us approbation for our personality.
Yes.
Because it gets the job done.
Yeah.
But is it serving?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That is well, first I agree with you 100%. And I'll talk just for a few seconds. I don't know the type of man that I would have become had it not been for having a male role model, my dad, in my life every single day. Um, my dad wasn't particularly spiritual. When I look back now, though, boy, oh boy, did he have all the traits of a man of God. You know, he was kind, he was gentle, he was tough. And I had someone to look towards. And, I married my wife very young, and, we're still together. We'll be, married 40 years in just a bit. And I just don't know what I would have done without her dad also being a role model in my life. And so having two, like that, most definitely shaped, who I am. And I have seen our role diminished in so many ways, over the years. And thank God for someone like you that recognizes that, but not only recognizes it, but wants to do something about it. And, those are awful, painful examples that you just gave, but they need to be talked about.
Yeah.
And, we need to get to the root. And this is where what you do really comes in and comes in strong. And what better example do we have than Jesus Christ, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that great example of manhood, and we sometimes don't look at it that way, but it is absolutely that way. So that's my quick 2 cents. I want to hear more from you now, because you were going down a path here now, how this then ties in with what you do every day. So talk a little bit about how you've tied that thread together, Timmy, because I just think this is why your coaching style is so unique.
And it's, I'll just clarify, it's not me, what's happening here. But I've been fortunate enough to see the patterns. So to your point, society, culture, things go south, things go bad. Why? What we're talking about is people's behavior. And right now we're talking particularly about men and how left on their own device, it can go really bad.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it an interesting parallel that your brain, that 2 to 3 pound thing in your skull, left on its natural default, looks for what is wrong? Kenny, watch this. It does not look for not what is right, what is possible. Let me explain. Default, what is wrong? That is your limbic system in your brain, which pretty much looks at the 5 F's: fight, flight, freeze, feed, and fornicate. That's how the species keeps going. If you and I are out in the woods and something rustles in the bush, we will naturally, what is that, right? And is it a saber-toothed tiger? Are we going to fight it? Are we going to freeze? Are we going to flee? That part of your brain is 3 to 5 times stronger than what we would say is your more human brain, your right brain and your prefrontal cortex. So let's understand it for a minute. So that survive part of your brain is 3 to 5 times stronger. So if that part of your brain could do 500 push-ups to be more human, how many push-ups do you have to be able to do? At least 501 to get stronger than that brain. That's a lot of push-ups, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it gets a little even more challenging, and that part of your brain gets first bite at every stimuli that comes your way. So let's go back to the larger conversation. I'm a police officer. I'm giving you a command. You're not following my command. Hopefully they're training and they know who they are as a human can override that reaction.
Mm,
Are you, I mean, are we still tracking here? Because it's
no doubt. Makes
okay.
perfect sense. Absolutely.
It's really important. So I'm not making excuses for any of that behavior. I'm going to be crystal clear.
Yep.
But their brain, just like anybody else's brain, will get pinged. That's the default. So for you to be able to have a brain that moves from reaction to, no, I'm going to respond, that takes work. That
Mm,
is why we train our police officers.
mhm,
But again, and I'm a guy that lived in that career, it goes deeper than that.
mm.
You have to know who you are. So let me pause for a second. And it's not a rhetorical question. Ask me who I am, Kenny.
Who are you, Timmy?
I'm a beloved son of God.
Mm, love it.
Until we know our deeper self,
Yes.
as Thomas Merton would say, our true self, your essence, your presence, until you know that beloved status. And listen, I'm a Christian, I'm Catholic by faith, but pick all good religions seek to take the individual and make them part of something bigger in a positive, sacred kind of way. So I'm, Muslim, Buddhism, Jewish, all fingers pointing at the moon in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But until you know that status, you're not going to know it. Let's bring it back to the earlier conversation. What's our best way of knowing that and learning it? Role modeling. Role modeling is our strongest form of learning.
No doubt.
I see, I do.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we have people talking about, hey, this is how your brain is set on default? Hey, this is how you need to be something bigger than you. Hey, now here's the next part, which you want to get to is, well, how do I do that? How do I move the brain from that limbic system, left brain, to my right brain and my prefrontal cortex, this whole thrive brain you're talking about, Timmy? Kenny, watch what God did for us. Okay, so if your brain can sort of put you on a negative default, what do you do to make the pivot? You use your body, your five senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I smell? What do I taste? What do I touch? And let's stay with it. What did Jesus do?
Mm,
He met people where they're at
mm-hmm.
with those five senses.
Yeah.
Are you with me?
I'm, I'm more than with you. Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
So
Yeah.
now let me hop over to the mental fitness part.
Yeah.
What we know from the studies is very simple. This is where science and spirituality overlap in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
If you can be, as I call it, present with one of those five senses, where you are laser beam focused, just to say on something you are touching for 10 seconds or longer,
Mm-hmm.
the neural pathway pivots to the right side of your brain
Wow.
and the prefrontal cortex.
Wow.
And
Wow.
if you can do that for give or take 15 minutes or longer a day on a repeated basis, you become mentally fit.
Mm.
This is science. We show it with the fMRIs.
Yeah.
So just like you can get physically fit, like if Kenny, if you said, because I'm an endurance, Timmy, I want to do an Ironman like you. Okay. You need X amount of time to do run, bike, swim, etc. And on a repeated basis, you will get in shape. You would understand that. Yes.
Yes.
Bro, it's the same thing with our brain.
Yeah.
But has anybody told us this?
No.
Well, here we are. And isn't it beautiful that God made you with what keeps you surviving, but he also made you with what will help you thrive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So listen, this is how we can say we have met the problem. It's ourselves, but we've met the solution. It's us working together.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I have so many thoughts running around in my head. I want to just pick back up on, you said very early on. First of all, that's fascinating and it makes perfect sense to me. And I know it's going to make perfect sense to the audience. People want to be part of something good. And,
Yes.
and what makes sense to me is that 3-second reaction and respond, because if our natural tendency is to also be part of something bad. If we react to that, we may be just following, where our brain is taking us, right? But if we can learn to do that 3-second responding, then I think we'll learn for our brain to take us to that other side that will say, I want to be part of
Yeah.
something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
To your point, so let's put this in a proper context. The default is to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, we survive better when we're together. We also thrive better when we're together. But if there's a bunch of us on default, we will work together to survive. We need to shift, to pivot, that we work together to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And see, I would say that is the idea of a good religion. It's taking the one and making a part of many. I mean, that's the idea of Catholic. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to mean universal,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is how we're called to participate in the mystery of Christ. Christ wasn't Jesus's last name.
That's true. That's very true.
You got me? Like people are like, oh, his last name was Christ. No. Christ is a bigger thing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we can participate in that. Just like this thing called humanity, we're supposed to participate in that. But again, so let's go back to the gang member. Do you know what it's like to live in that environment? I need to survive. I get it. It says a white privileged man who's a former cop, but I do get that because it makes perfect sociological and sense of you're doing what you need to survive, but that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And this is why Thoreau says most men and women lead lives of quiet desperation,
Mm-hmm.
and they go to the grave with the song still in their heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the idea. See, life doesn't happen to you; it happens for you.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you know how to pivot that, to shift that, you're stuck on default. And isn't it interesting? And here's I should have been the priest in the family. The first words of Jesus, and you would know better than I, but it's basically repent and hear the good news. Well, when you break that down, the word is actually metanoia. Mm-hmm. And metanoia means change your perspective, shift, look at it new. Like you and I are looking at each other on Zoom. You could describe what's behind me right now on the wall and all that. But the best way for me to appreciate it is to turn around and see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Do the same thing with your brain. Turn it around. Move from the default of survive to thrive. How do we do it? With presence.
Yeah.
Kenny, prayer is a presence exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The Bible can be a presence exercise. Yeah. A walk in nature can be a presence exercise. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do. So you're a client and you're a CEO. You want to show up better? Let's talk about just the coaching conversation, which has its own way of working, but then the facet of mental fitness, which is nothing but presence work. And everybody's talking about mindfulness now. It's the same old story, just here's another way of doing it. And that's what I offer people.
Yeah. Wow. That is amazing. I'll tell you this one other quick thought that ran through my mind as you were talking. I get it too, because I grew up in the South Bronx in the 70s, and I was approached by gangs several times, and
No doubt.
I never said okay, and I never felt pressured, even though I was scared sometimes to say no. And I looked over my shoulder a lot of times, but I already felt like, Timmy, to your point, that I was part of something else, something bigger with my family. I just felt like, if I said yes, my dad would kill me. If I said yes, my mom would kill me, and I felt a connection there already. Therefore, I didn't need, this other connection. But for folks that didn't have that, which were a lot, and it's still a lot these days, right? Then I'm gonna kind of gravitate towards, saying yes to these gangs, which is what we see, which, you would know a heck of a lot better than me. You lived it every day. Thus, it's so much more important, because I'm just going back to what you said at the beginning, how we have to see in order to do. We have to see that that role model, first, and you talking and showing about that is just such important work. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen, I'm going back a ways here, I'm dating myself, the movie Jaws?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yes.
So for those who've seen the movie Jaws, that Roy Scheider is Chief Brody sitting there, and he's at the kitchen table, and his one little boy, that actor, is there. And Scheider's basically, Chief Brody's realizing, I'm gonna have to go out into the ocean, and we're gonna have to like hunt, get this shark.
Yes.
And he's sitting at the table and he starts steepling, he puts his fingers together.
Yes.
And then he makes like a prayer fist, and the kid's mimicking him. And then he makes a face, Chief Brody does, and the kid makes a face and he says, come here. And he says,
Yes.
give me a kiss. My understanding is, and if I ever get to talk to Steven Spielberg, I ask, my understanding is that was not in the script.
Oh, wow.
That
Wow.
was just a kid doing what his male role model in that scene was doing.
That is so interesting.
Brilliant example, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I remember that scene like it was yesterday when you brought it up. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Just one of those small scenes in the movie too, but wow. That is so interesting. All right. I want to get back now to coaching, but this is fascinating because it all just ties right in. It ties right in. So, it's so funny because some of the questions I have written down now seem a little mundane, but I'm going to ask a few of them anyway. And that is, through your experience, why don't, and especially in the leaders that I see in my realm, they'll lean right towards telling folks what to do right away as opposed to coaching. And maybe some of it is because it's a fast-paced world, right? I'm in a restaurant, I got to get orders out. I'm in a retail store, I need to close that sale. Why is that? And because there's so many more benefits to coaching, why coaching and not why managing and not coaching?
Yeah. And again, the brain on default, what's wrong, meaning we just got to get through this. It's fight, flight, or freeze. So that manager just doing the here's the answer, is it to just get through that fight, flight, or freeze type of paradigm?
Yeah.
Whereas to your point, where we're going is, if you can be present, and then, in fact, I'm looking at my notes because you've had some great guys, Jay Williams, Ron Reich, and one of the guys was talking about, avoid the why did you do that question, because people can get defensive. You may recall this from one of your episodes. Yeah. So, hey, help me understand what you're thinking of, like, you just pivot that question, but see where they're at. And because obviously when people can come up with the solution that jives with where you were going, they're enrolled.
Yes.
They're enrolled. I mean, I'll flip to the, like,
yes.
This dude named Jesus showed up on planet Earth. It's like, I've got a message. And he said, all right, not everybody's going to get it, but here's a parable. Here's a story. Here's a miracle. He used any which way to help them realize the answer themselves, which is the manager has to do that. And I get it's challenging at times. And listen, again, in law enforcement, there's times in a tactical situation, I'm going to have time to, well, Kenny, why do you, like, dude, take that post and, we got to deal with it. So why do managers do it? Because they let the brains go on default. So what do you get out of a coaching relationship? You get that kind of feedback. So you learn how to be a coach-like leader. Yeah. And then the niche I have is understand how your brain works in that.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And it is so beneficial. There are going to be those times where you have to manage, as you said, but that makes just so much sense. What would you say are a couple of other skills that that you're seeing that leaders really need to nail in order to be successful 2023 and forward?
At the risk of stating what I obviously said earlier, is role modeling. You talk the talk, walk the walk, right? But let me give you 5 specific ones. So when we talk about mental fitness, that default mindset, it initially shows up as, I call it the judge. Call it your ego. Call it that's wrong, that's right, that's black, that's white. it just judges, and the judge brings in certain other voices from your brain. They're your personality.
Yeah.
And we call them your saboteurs. And there's 9 specific saboteurs. And you tend to make one in particular, but 1 or 2 sort of your default. So the judge kicks up, says, this is wrong. Hey guys, come here and look at this. And these saboteurs come in. It's like a Mel Brooks movie. Harumph, 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 right? They're all like harumphing about it. Well, then you need to recognize that's a saboteur. I don't need that. You pivot with a presence exercise. And then you access your right hemisphere, your prefrontal cortex, which is your sage. And the sage has a perspective. And see how this works with Jesus.
Yeah.
Out of every circumstance or outcome, you can pivot that into a gift and opportunity. Because here's the thing, dude. Whichever way you look at it, you're right. This isn't going to work. You're right. If you think it's not going to work, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
You know, if you think you can find a gift and opportunity, you're right. You'll probably find a gift and opportunity.
Yeah.
And so once you get that perspective, the 5 ways the sage shows up is, and your other guest spoke about it. First one is empathy. Feeling and showing appreciation, compassion, forgiveness. And there's a specific thing I teach in coaching of how to be empathetic with other people. And that's if anybody wants to know more about that, hit me up and we'll do a coaching session.
Yeah.
Then there's explore. Experience great curiosity and fascination about what's happening in the moment now. See, when we go into the future and the past, we get regret and fear. But there's only one real thing. It's now. And we tend to jump out of it real quick, right?
Yes, yes.
The next one is innovate. If we keep doing the same thing, we get the same results, right?
Yes.
So innovate. Then as you progress with that, navigate. What are the various paths and what's going to work for me? And then you see where we're headed. Now activate. Put it into play. And it may not be perfect, but it's an iteration. And you're doing it from another part of your brain that is more curious and creative. So to answer your question, role model. Be curious versus accusatory. Be creative versus delegating. And you can just feel that energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you, the manager, want to show up to be that, you have to work on it yourself.
Yeah.
So the presence work I'm talking about is just like physical fitness. You have to work at it. So if you're working with me, I need about 15 minutes out of your day total. I need about 5 minutes throughout the day. And I can even hook you up with an app that'll walk you through the whole thing. And I can put you through a 6-week boot camp, shall we say. But you get it the way you want it.
Yeah.
We really do, bro.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. I got to ask you one more thing. And
Okay.
this has just been fascinating, Timmy. Thank you so much. Transformational coaching. You really talk a lot about that and why it's important. And I know you've covered a little bit without using the word just now, but talk a little bit about transformation, because I hate to say, in my realm, I see a lot of transactional leaders. And I totally understand. I think you do need both, but I've always been transformational. Why do you say that that's important these days?
The leader is responsible for the performance, motivation, and satisfaction of the individuals, the unit, and the entire team. That's the extreme ownership. And then to do that, it cannot be transactional. You'll never get to your new level. I mean, let's go back to, because we did it, the Jesus thing. Okay, I got a message. Okay, you're not getting it. Here's a miracle. Oh, you're not getting it. Here's a parable. Here's, I'm going to raise my buddy Lazarus from the dead. Okay, you can kill me, but I'm coming back.
Wow.
You're not killing, you may think you're killing my body, but you're not killing me, my essence, my presence. And that is the Paschal mystery, is the hero's journey. It's in every good movie. It's in every good poem. It's in all these kind of songs. It's just, you go up to go down to find your new level. Otherwise, you're flatlined.
Flatline. Absolutely. Absolutely. That really puts, I've never heard it put that way before. And so if I'm transactional, I'm not moving.
You're
I'm just,
flatline.
you're
Yeah.
flatline. Wow. Wow. I love that. I could talk to you all day, man. I really could. I could talk to you all day. So I'm gonna have to have you back on.
I would
I,
appreciate that.
I know where to find you. So
You
I'm
do.
gonna have you back on. This has been outstanding, and but not only do I know where to find you, I will post where other folks can find you as well. And folks, if you've just heard a taste, a scratch of the surface of what Timmy has to offer, and it is just outstanding. So I'll get you on tape. You'll come back on with me, yes?
Yes, sir. In fact,
Awesome.
if people hit me up, the website's evoluteperformance.com.
Yes.
And I'm on LinkedIn, Timmy Gallagher, Gallagher, or Evolute Performance on LinkedIn. But if folks want to have a conversation, hit me up. And if they mention leading from the middle, 4 pro bono sessions,
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
just for you and your listeners.
Absolutely. Oh, that is fantastic. Fantastic. Timmy, I can't thank you enough. What a conversation. I feel so great. And, this is weekend now is my work time, right? Because I'm getting ready for Sunday.
Indeed.
Man, oh man, have I got some stuff to talk about on Sunday. Thank you so much. And we'll be talking soon. And so, folks, this has been the Leading from the Middle podcast with Kenny and Timmy, and we will talk to you later.